All good strategy starts with research. And the reason it starts with research is pretty simple, because we don't know everything there is to know about any given problem or industry or product or, the people that we're hopefully trying to reach, right? We don't know. Therefore, we do as much as we can to find out. Anytime you don't know how to do something, you figure it out. So that's what research is all about. Of the 5 planes of user experience, research exists for the most part on the strategy plane. And that's where we're going to spend the majority of our time. What I want to show you here is essentially just a quick overview of what research looks like. Before we get going here, keep in mind that when I say research doesn't have to be this massive academic undertaking where you're taking a very scientific approach to measuring variables and conducting experiments and that kind of thing. That's all relevant and valuable, but you do not have to have quote-unquote research skills per se in order to do this. Really, all any of this is just having conversations with human beings and leveraging the tools in front of you, which in most cases is going to be Google. There is an awful lot of information to be found about any given topic, any given audience segment, any given product, because there's probably a precedent, right? Or something similar that you can check out and learn from. Okay, so that's all we mean by research. It's asking a lot of questions and getting enough answers to try and make sense of what you're doing. So the first part of strategic research is what we call stakeholder interviews. Well, what's a stakeholder? A stakeholder is any person that has a vested interest both in the product and the outcome. So there's stakeholders on 2 sides of the equation. The most common side is the client side, okay? If you're working on a project for a client, the people that you're talking to, which in some cases could be, the director of marketing, the director of IT, could be a product manager or a project manager of some sort. Those people all have a vested interest in the outcome, whether the project succeeds or not. All the way up to the level of the CEO, the president, the person who's signing the checks, in other words, to get this done. Those are all stakeholders, okay, because they have a vested interest in the outcome. So those are people you want to talk to. You want to know what they think success is. That goes a long way in avoiding the situation where you've got a lot of people on a team, on a client side or on a designer side, where not everybody sees the project the same way. That's part of the reason it's important to have these stakeholder conversations and interviews early on. You want to find out what everybody's thinking and if they're all thinking the same thing. And if there are differences of opinion about what constitutes success, it has to get ironed out before you start doing any work. This is critically important. Otherwise, you will go down 1, 2, 6, 8 paths, and the target will keep moving because not everybody can agree on what you're supposed to be doing. So stakeholder interviews at the outset are terribly, terribly important. From there, we typically move on to what's called a competitor review, which is essentially you look for competing products, okay, competing companies, competing entities, and you say, okay, well, what are they doing? And is it working? Do people like that? Do they hate it? Are they online complaining about it? Which is especially valuable because if you can find examples of features and functions that people routinely complain about in the competition's products, those are typically things you can capitalize on, okay? If you can solve those problems with your product, well, okay, you've got an immediate advantage, right? You've got something you can say, well, guess what? We don't do all those things. We know you hate this, and we don't do that, right? So that's why you look at competitors. You want to know what they're doing, you want to know what they're doing well, and you want to know what they're not doing well so that maybe you could find some competitive advantage there. After competitors, you start talking to users, okay? Who's actually going to use this thing? And, can we get a representative sample of folks together and ask them a lot of questions about what they like, what they don't like, what they typically use during the day. In this case, you would say, if you had to complete task A or task B or task C, whatever that may be, how would you want to do that, right? In your ideal world, how would this work? They may tell you about another piece of software that they use to do that, another website they use to do that, a mobile phone app that they use to do that. The important thing is you want to get them to tell you how they would complete the task. And if they are already using a tool, you want to sort of uncover what they like about it and what they don't like about it. So again, it's about what's going to meet their needs the best. So the more information you can get, not only about how they use something, but how they go about their day, what their motivations are, why these tasks are important to them, and why completing them in a certain way is important to them. You want to know why. Okay, is it going to make them look good to their boss? Is it going to save them time? Is it going to make them better looking? Right? And what is it? So those are the things that you want to talk to users about. And again, aside from just interviewing people one-on-one, the internet is a treasure trove of information, because whatever people like or don't like, they get on Facebook or they get on Twitter or on Amazon or wherever, and they tell you. So the information is out there. From that point, if there's an existing product, okay, because a lot of times you will be part of a team that's tasked with redesigning something that already exists, right? This is version 2 of the product or version 3. It's fourth generation of the website. It's third generation of the internal timekeeping system. Whatever it may be, you want to conduct what's called an audit of the existing product, and that essentially means everything in the preceding 3 steps that we just talked about. Except this time, you're asking them very, very specifically all those things that we discussed about the existing product. You're talking to stakeholders and saying, what do you think is good about it? What do you think is bad about it? How is it benefiting your organization? How is it hurting your organization? From a competitor standpoint, you want to say, who does this product compete against, and how well is it competing? Are we holding our own? Are we getting our rear ends kicked? What's happening with regard to the competition? With users, same question. Okay, we know you already use this, but what do you think could be better about it? How could it help you? How could it help you be more efficient? How could it help you save time? How could it help you win the affections of the opposite sex? Whatever it is. Again, you just got to talk to people. From there, it's all analysis and review. You've got answers to all these questions that you've asked. You've got all these interesting conversations that you've had. You've got a ton of stuff that you researched online. So now it's time to look at all of it and try to figure out, okay, what does this mean? Again, you don't have to have any formal process for doing that, because what is going to happen is once you start reading back everything that you've gathered and collected, you're going to see patterns. You're going to see multiple instances where people are essentially saying the same thing, asking for the same thing, complaining about the same thing, whatever it is. That's analysis. You're looking for those patterns. All right. You want to make note of those things so that they make it into some sort of feature set that helps define the scope of what you're doing. So research doesn't have to be complicated. You just have to do it.